Hey everyone, welcome back. Or if you're just joining us, I'm Spencer,
And I'm
and
Katie.
with this video, we're gonna go a little more in depth on the gut-brain relationship.
All right, so we're going to start with what is the vagus nerve? The vagus nerve is a cranial nerve with a long list of functions, and it's one way the gut and the brain
And
communicate.
then we're gonna briefly just move on to some neurotransmitters. So first we'll start with what is dopamine. Dopamine is important for various functions, including attention, sleep, learning, mood, etc.
Okay, so what is serotonin? Well, serotonin is a neurotransmitter. It plays a role in regulating sleep, pain, appetite, and mood.
And you may be wondering, well, who cares? Why does any of this matter? Well, these neurotransmitters play an important role in the body, as we just stated, and it turns out that 90% of the body's serotonin and 50% of the body's dopamine can be found in the gut.
So, what does this mean? Well, this could mean there's evidence that the microbiota of the gut heavily influence the gut brain relationship, which may affect mood, function, and regulation. There are various gut microbiomes that can affect the dopamine bioavailability. Some microbiomes have been shown to affect receptors, transporters, and targets along the dopamine pathway, either positively or negatively. The vagus nerve is important for dopamine activation and influence. And then one interesting thing we found looking up info for the topic was that it was mentioned how it's unclear whether the vagus nerve is directly affected by the microbiomes or their metabolites. And I guess I would think that it's the metabolites that are affecting the vagus nerve, leading to the neurological response, good or bad. But the microbiomes are still important because they've shown that each microbe appears to be important for particular processes. So without that microbe, you may not have the metabolite that leads to the neurologic response. So both are important. I just feel that the metabolite from the microbes that causes the vagus nerve to respond. Oh, I guess that sentence makes
Sorry,
sense.
I forgot that I put in my own personal. I'm sorry, you didn't have to read that part. I forgot that I put my own personal
Oh,
opinion
that's
in
fine.
there. I didn't mean to force you to read my opinion, but what do you think about it?
That's
What do
fine.
you think about
Let me.
that? I guess. Do you think that it's the so what was it? So basically they didn't like what I found was that they'd the researchers to this date from that article that I found it in didn't know if it was the microbes interacting with the vagus nerve or if it was the metabolites from the microbes. So after the microbe digests the food and produces that metabolite, if that metabolite is what it interacts with the vagus nerve. And to me, I thought it was the metabolites, not the bacteria or virus or whatever itself. So I think it's the
Yeah,
byproducts of the bacteria that interacts with our nervous system, not the actual bacteria or virus or whatever, or the microbiome.
yes. Um, then now does is the microbiome or the microbes are they able to send messages to the metabolites
I don't think so. I think it's just
or
like a
metabolites?
byproduct from what I um understood, but that I don't know for sure. Like to me, I think of it as being like
So what are the metabolites?
their poop, if
Metabolites.
you will, like their byproducts. So they digest. So we eat food, and then they
Oh,
digest
okay.
that food, and then they poop out
Oh,
like
it's the
dopamine or
byproduct of what
whatever.
we digested.
Yeah, with the micro. So
Okay.
basically, when we eat, from what I understood, we're just feeding our microbiome, and then they're digesting that food and producing things that we need to function. So really, we're not eating the food
Right.
for us; we're eating it for them. But we like the
Yeah.
byproducts. Like obviously, with
But
sugar, we
we
get
we
dopamine.
benefit from it still.
Hmm.
Yeah. Oh, I was just saying, and we benefit from it still. But I see what you're saying though,
Yeah.
because we benefit from the microbiome getting that food,
Yes, because
but the
that's
food doesn't directly go fast
gonna
necessarily.
yeah. But the food will determine which byproducts they produce. So the food still matters in a sense, but we're not, from my understanding, eating the food. Like we are, but we're feeding. Like I don't know. That's just what I,
We're
and I
feeding
could be
them gut.
completely wrong, but that's what I gathered when I was looking into it. But
Yeah.
with that, I just felt that it was more the
Okay.
metabolites than the actual bacteria itself that interacts with our nervous system. Unless the bacteria has some synapses on it that can interact. But that to me just, but I don't know for sure. And they don't know either. So that was just something that I found interesting, I guess, while looking it up
Okay.
and elaborated on a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. So we know how important dopamine and serotonin are in regards to the brain, so it's important for us to attempt to understand how these microbes and the different neurotransmitters may be connected and how those connections may affect us. It's been shown that some mood disorders, such as depression and autism, have well established links with a dysfunctional GI system. It also turns out that GI disorders often have a mental illness as a comorbidity.
And how do they know this? Well, to show this connection, researchers have done studies on rats where they introduced a unique bacterium into their GI system, which then elicited an anxiety like response. In that study, the researchers found that there were neuronal regions in the brain being activated that were dependent on the gut brain pathway. There have been other studies done on rats that have shown that their gut microbiome early in life, postnatal, can have long lasting effects in how they respond to stress. Neuronal processing of sensory information regarding the endocrine stress axis. So basically, uh, per their research, seemed to show that our gut microbiome early in life can affect us long term, in theory.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
So then what about the rest of our body? Uh, so our microbiota plays an important role in regulating immune homeostasis. It can also elicit or prevent inflammation. For example, with IBS, there is abnormal microbiota that lead to an immune response resulting in symptoms which are abdominal pain and cramping, bloating, swelling of the stomach, and change in bowel habits. Stress heavily affects the gut microbiome permeability, which has been associated with gut disorders such as leaky gut. Leaky gut allows bacteria to seep into circulation, producing an inflammatory response. Gut microbiome dysfunction can also lead to inflammation, which has been implicated in a number of psychological disorders. Unclear at the time of the article we found if it's the faulty brain signaling that leads to the gut microbiome dysregulation or if the gut microbiome dysregulation can lead to the brain disorders. And I guess
So that's my opinion
that,
again. But you can,
yeah,
so I guess I feel that it would be the gut microbiome, especially with the studies that they have done that have shown that if we alter the gut microbiome, we see a neurologic response. To me, that would lead me to believe that the gut microbiome can lead to brain disorders, but I guess it could also be true that brain disorders could lead to gut dysregulation. Maybe either or can lead to the other. And I guess I was curious on your thoughts too, obviously.
see, to me, it seems like something that would be cyclical.
What does that
So,
mean? What do you mean
like,
by that?
so by cyclical, I mean that they both can cause each other.
Okay.
So, like, the gut microbiome can induce a brain, a psychological disorder if it's not healthy. And then that in turn, that psychological disorder would in turn also lead to the worsening of the health of the gut microbiome.
Okay.
So it would just be cyclical, like going back and forth, basically.
Do you think
Um,
one
like
leads to the
kind
other
of like
based on
how
individuals?
I think one could lead to the other, yeah, based on the individual. So, because like for example, depression isn't always a chemical response initially. Sometimes depression is completely based off of your environment. And so that would affect your brain. And in that instance, the psychological disorder would be what was affecting the gut microbiome. But with other people, I think that they start off with the unhealthy gut microbiome and that leads to the depression, you
Yeah,
know?
that makes sense.
Like I
So
think
it
it's a
kind of is
person
going to
thing which
be
leads to
like
what.
an, so yeah, like individual. So basically, obviously, with any new discovery that we always make, we can't ever, what am I trying? We can't extrapolate it to every, like, it's not, it's never, I feel like a lot of times people will make discoveries and then try to make claims that, oh, they discovered the next greatest, like the answer to everything, you know, like they'll be like, oh, the gut microbiome is the answer to all of the questions that we've ever won,
Oh yeah,
but it's not, just like mirror neurons aren't either.
right.
They're important and it is important.
They're important discoveries, but they're not like a
The
panacea to
solution,
science.
yes, yes. So I think that's important anytime with any discovery, but we're talking about the gut microbiome. So just with the gut microbiome, to realize that, like anything, it has limits. There's
Right.
always
Like if
limits.
you
Limits are
fix your gut
important to understand.
microbiome. Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I was just saying limits are important to understand.
Yeah. And like with your gut micro, like fixing your gut microbiome isn't going to fix all the problems in your life, or it's not even going to fix all
No,
the problems with your health. You know, like that's
no,
not the
yeah,
only aspect to health.
yeah, exactly. Because like with diabetes, you can't just, especially type one, like you can't just switch up your diet and then like your type 1 diabetes will go away, you know? So
Right.
like like there are some, even if in theory the gut microbiome might have affected diabetes in the beginning, that I don't know, but
Yeah.
fixing, like, yeah, it's not a cure all, I guess I would say.
Right.
Nothing really
Exactly.
is a cure all,
And
unfortunately.
yeah. And I guess something analogous for what I was saying before about it being cyclical. Like I would say it's similar to like so. Okay, I have ADHD and diabetes, which is a nightmare. But like so the ADHD symptoms can make my diabetes worse because whether it's forgetfulness or executive dysfunction or whatever, like whatever trait is making me less able to take care of my diabetes gets worse, and then that in turn also makes my ADHD get worse. Just so that you can kind of see something similar that's also cyclical if, the initial explanation didn't make sense.
No, I think I see what you're saying, and that makes sense. Yeah, I don't think I guess I don't know if I'd ever heard that before, or if maybe I'd heard, I don't know. It makes sense. I get what you're saying though.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, so as we have kind of pointed out, we can see that the there, even though, as we stated, the gut brain relationship is not a cure all, it does still play an important role in the function of our bodies just in general, and including our brain.
Yeah. So you can join us in our next episode. We're going to go over our gut microbiome and food.
Yes, and if we don't see you in the next episode, feel free to leave a comment below letting us know what you want us to discuss in future episodes.
Yeah, you can reach out to us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. We also occasionally do some Twitch live streams, so stay tuned for those.
And don't forget to like, follow, or subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our future content. Otherwise, we hope to see you in the next video, but if not, we will see everyone next time.